Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. The UIAAA would not be able to broadcast this podcast without the support of our business partners. Thank you to all of the gold and silver business partners of the UIAAA, BSN Sports, and our contact, Jeremy Macy. Final Forms, AMP, with contacts Julie Renner and Clay Burnett. Granite Canyon Wealth and our contact, Megan Palazzo. Jostens and our contact, Molly Shaheen. NCSA, Next College Student Athlete, and our contact, Paul Putnam. VNN Varsity News Network and our contact, Jason Jones. Thanks again to all of the gold and silver UIAAA business partners.
Welcome to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. We're pleased to have this week as our guest, Jamie Sheetz, CMAA Athletic Director at Park City High School and the Professional Development Coordinator for the UIAAA. Hello, Jamie. How are you, and how much snow is there up there?
Hi, Hutch. Well, I got to look out the window a little bit. We lost some since yesterday, so got another storm coming. But there's a good foot.
Okay, and so when is the snow going to be off the track so your track kids can get outside?
It's off the track. We've actually, because there's no track start date, they've actually been going since last Monday. We had cleared it. We clear the turf and the track as much as we can during the winter. So they're actually clear. They're good to go. So lacrosse and soccer practiced on the turf yesterday.
Okay, and it doesn't help your baseball and softball kids,
No,
however.
Not until we get turf for them. It's they have to go inside either the gyms or over to the field house. That's the county field house to do some work.
All right, excellent. Let's begin today, Jamie, and let's give our listeners a little background on where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, your background, how you got involved in sports, that type of thing.
This is a long story, so hopefully I keep it short.
No, you're good.
Was born and grew up for the first 9 years of life in Eastern Pennsylvania, just east of Reading, so a little bit west of Philadelphia. When I was 9, moved to Salt Lake City.
Okay, so let me ask you: did you ever get a chance to go to Gettysburg? Since you
but it's funny though, it wasn't when I was 9. It was actually after I'd gone to college. That or before I was 9, it was after I'd gone to college and went back and actually took a trip to Gettysburg. So yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
That's all right. That's a neat place. I like.
So you're 9, and then you move to Utah.
Yep, moved to Salt Lake.
Okay. Now how does that work? Because here I'm a
Pennsylvania
native, and I'm gonna pack up and move to Salt Lake in the bright.
It was my mom's choice, so I'd have to ask her. I never really delved into it too much, but I'm glad truthfully, because I consider myself a Utahn, even though all my family's back in Pennsylvania. So moved out. That was a long time ago. Things have changed quite a bit down there since then, and we wound up settling in Cottonwood Heights, just off of Wasatch Boulevard up there, and was in essentially went to high school at Brighton, so was in that elementary, junior high, and high school system.
Okay.
Was played baseball all through there. Played a little bit of football, but didn't take that up into the high school level. Kind of was a backyard guy in the other sports, but kind of focused a little bit on baseball. Senior year was in a tournament in Denver and kind of beat up my back pretty good. And, like most people, that when the sport pushes you out, if you get hurt, you get interested in sports medicine. So that's kind of what I got interested in.
So your senior year is what year?
Should I even say 1989.
Okay.
So, yeah. So from there, as that interest grew I'd already had that interest, I guess I should say, in sports medicine. Went to the University of Michigan to do a bachelor's degree in kinesiology. They had a nice program that I liked, and started that there. My first year there, I got into athletic training and served as an athletic trainer with football. Got to go to the Rose Bowl, so that was pretty fun. And then wound up handling track the next year, some swimming, some gymnastics. So had a really good time. And then by about senior year, I started kind of shifting paths and was gotten into a little bit more of the training, the performance training side of it. I was a little bit more interested in that. So from Ann Arbor, got interested in sports psychology. I had an advisor there named Tom George at the University of Michigan. I think he's still there. That had done a lot of sports psych work, and so started getting heavily interested in that. Miami, Ohio had a really good program, so I applied there and went down and worked on a master's in sport behavior and performance, and then started coaching baseball. Tom actually knew somebody that was down there, and so I lived just south of Dayton and would drive down about 50 minutes or so down to Oxford, down to Miami, Ohio, so that I was doing the classes, but then I was coaching back up there in Miamisburg High School baseball. So it's kind of where
home of the Dayton Flyers. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of how the coaching started. And so it was kind of still kind of in that whole world of kinesiology, still, kind of touching the athletic training side, really getting into the performance side with strength and conditioning, and also, the mental performance thing. So was trying to apply that to the coaching. Spent a couple of years there doing that, and then was looking for a summer gig after that second year at Miami. And my best friend from high school was actually in Springfield, Missouri, and I had sent him a note and said, "Hey, you got anything down there that anybody I could talk to about coming down to coach during the summer?" And he actually, this was before the internet really, you could just pull somebody up online. So he got me some phone numbers of a couple places there, and I called down and got hooked up with Parkview High School. They're essentially their American Legion program during the summer, and left Ohio to go down to Springfield, Missouri, and essentially spent the summer down there coaching. Had a great time, really liked the community down there, and I really didn't have a ton set up, afterwards. So I stayed there. And one thing led to another, and I wound up being there for almost 20 years, but started, my first job in education, beyond the coaching piece, was doing in-school suspension, which I think a lot of people get their start. And we were in an old supply closet with no windows, with one hanging fluorescent light and about 11 cubicles in that room, that closet. It was so far removed from, it was about as far away as you could get from anything in the school as possible, because it was on the backside of the gym, and the gym had like an exterior entrance that wasn't connected to the school. Mm-hmm. And then when you walked in that open area, the concession stand was there. This is before you even got into the gym in the school. And then back behind that was a hallway, and then an old storage room, and that's what they had converted into it. So it was a very interesting experience.
So when they said to the kids, "We're going to send you to prison," that's where they sent them.
Exactly. So I used that time to work on a lot of coaching, a lot of coaching things that I was doing, and then used it to study for a certified strength and conditioning specialist exam. I took that and passed that year. So I had that under my belt and was still coaching. And while I was doing that, I got to know a gentleman named Dick Birmingham, who was essentially headquartered in Springfield, Missouri. He's a long time head baseball coach at Hillcrest High School there in Springfield. And I think he wound up being in 7 halls of fame by the time he was done. So got the chance to get connected with him, and he'd already retired. He'd been retired about 5 years or so. And well, it was actually longer than that at that point. He might've been retired for almost 10. And he was running camps and clinics and doing instruction all over the country, and got lucky enough to get partnered up with him. So kind of started doing that and wound up doing camps from Florida to Texas to New Jersey to Chicago, and all places in between. So it was fun. So I kind of stopped coaching high school baseball at that point, because I was working full time with Dick, and he did a great job mentoring me. I was very fortunate to be around him, about somebody of his caliber and as well connected as he was. And then about 97, 98, it would have been, I knew Keith Gutton, who was coaching at then Southwest Missouri State. He was the head baseball coach there. I knew Keith through my relationship with Coach Birmingham, and I just kind of decided I was going to go back, because I didn't do a degree in education. The degree in kinesiology was just that. It was only kinesiology. So
Right.
I decided I was going to go back and get my teacher certification done. And because I didn't have too many credits, I think it was probably 30 something credits. It was on all straight education stuff, because I already had all the PE/kines stuff. And I went and talked to Keith and said, hey, I'm thinking about coming back to school and just to do these credits, and while I'm here, so I could go back to teach and coach in high school. And while I'm here, I just was seeing if he had anything open, and it just so happened that the volunteer assistant at the time, Evan Pratt, was leaving to go to be an assistant coach at the University of Missouri. So it was going to open up, but it was going to be about 8 months away. So I was still doing stuff with Coach Birmingham, traveling all around, having fun. I got to go to Aruba 4 times and the Bahamas once with teams to go play with him. So it was a great experience. I got to do some really fun stuff.
That's a tough
but
life.
let him know I was going back, and what my plans were. And so while I was doing that, I said, well, why I'm already doing this, I might as well just do another master's degree and do it in education. So I kind of double dipped. I was a GA. No, that didn't. Hold on, I got to get the timeline right. So for the first 2 semesters, I think I really crammed. I think I did 20 and 21 credits. And because I'd already been in school for 6 years, it was no big deal. So I wound up like with a 4.0 for 41 credits doing teacher certification. So it was kind of fun. But then immediately as that was going on, so it might've been the 3rd semester, I started working on that second master's degree in education, and was GA in there. So while I was doing that is when I was coaching. So I was teaching classes, taking master's classes, and then that's when I was able to join on with the Bears to coach. So did that for 3 years. Had a blast. Loved that place. Missouri State and Springfield, I still, have very fond memories of that. And then a job came open in Springfield at a high school that was probably the only place I was really willing to go at that point. It was a private school there, and a good friend of mine was changing jobs. He was going to coach football and baseball at a bigger school, kind of a promotion for him. So I took that job there at Springfield Catholic and was there for 5 years. Had great bunch of kids. They played for 2 state championships. We're in the playoffs every year. It was just a great bunch of kids to be around. And then while I was doing that during the summers, I'd picked up with a new club that had started called the Midwest Nationals, and started doing some coaching with them. And so as I was getting ready to leave Catholic, got to pull off 1 state championship or one national championship with the Nationals in 2005. And the year before that, we had a group that went to the NBC World Series in Wichita and won a national championship at the high school age group. So it was really nice to kind of, as the coaching career was building, to start getting those things under my belt as a coach. Fortunate for that. And then one of the student assistants at Missouri State that was there when I was coaching had just taken the job at Jefferson College in St. Louis. And so he asked if I'd come up to Jeffco to help coach, because we'd always talked about that if one of us wound up someplace that we'd invite you. So I went up there and coached with him, and I think he wound up, I'm trying to think how many years he was there. If he was there 10 or right around 10 years, I think he was conference coach of the year 8 times or more. They won the conference. I don't know how many times. They wound up at two junior college World Series. The years that I wasn't there is when he went to the World Series. So that tells you something, but no, helped get it going there. The first year we had a bunch of great players that went on to play at big universities or go play pro ball. And then after 2006, because I was driving back and forth, I was staying in student housing, but then I would go back to Springfield, like on the weekends, the extended weekends, all of the year, except for when the season was going on. Obviously in the spring, it was a little bit harder to do that. And then came back to Missouri State to coach again. and was doing some private stuff at that point. And that next summer, which would have been '08, went to the Northwoods League, collegiate summer league, and coached in Madison, Wisconsin for a summer. Then came back and went back to Jeffco again with Sam for another round. Had a good time again. Same thing. I think the next year they went to the World Series again after that. Left again, went back to Missouri. No, I take that back. Once I left Jeffco that second time, we went back and I got into the group that I'd been with the Midwest Nationals. They'd kind of expanded and had a indoor training facility, and the teams that have expanded a little bit. So I kind of joined in with them, wound up partnering up with 4 other individuals, had 3 indoor training facilities. I think we had 26 baseball teams. We'd started softball. We bought a volleyball club. So we were kind of doing all the devil stuff that we all, us as ADs right now as high school talk about, but we did it right. We didn't try to monopolize the kid or specialize them. So it was a good thing. I went to about 2011. And then it was time for me to transition, and I went back over to Missouri State again.
Again.
So it was my third stint over there. And then that summer, that would have been about 11 or 12. And then that summer I went down to the Coastal Plain League, another summer collegiate league, and was coaching at Morehead City in North Carolina. And that summer, that would have been summer of 13. That was when the job out here at Park City came open. So that was about how, so that next fall, I think it was about September, is how I wound up out here and started. So I was always looking for opportunities to come back out here. I mean, there was a couple jobs that I'd applied for, but without having the connection, it was a little bit more difficult to get back out here. But I was always looking for the opportunity because I miss being in the mountains. I miss this area. I love this area. I love the high desert. So was always looking. In the meantime, my best friend who I'd gone, to visit in Springfield and stayed there, he actually got, he applied for a different position within his company out here in Salt Lake. So he had actually wound up back out here back in the early 2000s. So he was already back out here. So it was kind of nice. It all kind of worked out. But yeah, so that's how I wound up at Park City. And then I inherited a fantastic program at a fantastic school, and it's been a blast for the last 8 years being part of it.
So tell me this. So and of course I may be geographically challenged. Branson's somewhere close to Springfield, isn't it?
So Branson.
Did you get a chance to go there at all, see some shows?
Branson all the time. So Branson is about the equivalent of the distance between Salt Lake City and Park City is about the same as the distance between Springfield, Missouri and Branson.
Okay.
Same kind of drive.
Real close.
You go down through the Ozarks. It's not like Parley's, but it reminds you of that.
Right.
It's kind of going down, but yeah, it's 30-minute drive maybe to get down there. So yeah. My wife's family were big Andy Williams fans. So every time they'd come for Thanksgiving, Andy Williams Christmas, the production would start. And so we'd wind up down there. So.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Yep. Tell us for a moment about maybe some of the mentors you had. I know you mentioned Keith and I know you mentioned Dick earlier, but maybe after that, and maybe some mentors you got maybe since you've been involved in the UIAAA and NIAAA.
Yeah. So obviously, Dick Birmingham was big, probably the biggest influence, at least early, for somebody who was just trying to establish themselves or get into the business of coaching and doing those things. He was probably the biggest. And then of course, Keith and the coaching staff at Missouri State, Paul Evans and Brent Thomas. Brent has since retired, but when I was with them, they were together for over 20 years as the same staff. So I was fortunate to be part of that staff for about 6 years with my 3 stints there. And it was just fantastic. And then, so Paul and Brent were huge mentors for me. Paul still is. I still, chat with him on occasion. He just went into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. And then, getting out here, Bob O'Connor, who was the principal, who just passed away from Lou Gehrig's disease, but he was the principal here for the first 5 years I was here. He was awesome. He was, when you talk about people being a player's coach, he was a teacher's principal.
Okay.
He just wanted people to take care of their business and do their thing and, do the right thing. And he was great. He was fantastic. And then, of course, moving into the UIAAA, I couldn't think of a better situation to have, people like you and Rich Barton and Ron Dolphin and Ran. And I mean, Ran, I think I've told you this story before. Ran, the first region meeting I had, we were hosting it at Park City because at the time, I think it was like Uinta, Union, Morgan, Juan Diego, and Park City. And so Park City was the
a nice
location.
spread out region.
Yeah. It was the great state of Region 10, I think, at the time. And so the region meetings were here in Park City. And Ran, I think, was coming, he would have been right about the time he was coming off his past presidency, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Clayton was president that year and Ron would have been past president. So I think Clayton would have been off, or Ren would have been off. So Ran, had a lot of knowledge. So he shows up to the meetings and he's doing a lot of stuff. And Chris Long was our ADEC rep at the time. So I had two good people there to get started with. And Chris's ADEC spot was up. And he said, "Hey, I'm done. I've done my tour. I'm going to, roll off here on this ADEC, so somebody needs to take it." And everybody just kind of looked at each other. And, I'd already done about 20 years in the baseball coaching realm. So I was familiar with, the American Baseball Coaches Association and professional development, how those things work. And so I knew, once I took this job, I needed to get, jump in feet first with any of the ADs association. So I volunteered. I said, yeah, I'll do it. And so, obviously that led to relationships with the rest of the people in the UIAAA, which, I can't think of a better group of people to be a part of with the UIAAA and the NIAAA. So, so I'm, anything that I've done there, I've used that term before, is, standing on the shoulders of giants of everybody in the UIAAA. And I've got to give you a ton of credit for modeling what we're doing with the UIAAA after the NIAAA, and how effective it becomes and how easy it then becomes to be part of both organizations when they run so similar, and ours is modeled after theirs. I think that made it real easy for me to get involved in the NIAAA as well. Went to my first NIAAA, or my first ADs conference the fall of 13. So it was in Anaheim. And I actually went to that before I went to a UIAAA state conference. Sure. So it was down there. And just got to see everything about it. Got to see, all the Blue Jackets down there, and mm-hmm. I think, was Rich running that at that point for an at-large? Was that the first year?
I think Rich, he had already ran.
Okay.
Because if 13, so the next year would have been December 14 was when he won in National Harbor.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to later.
National Harbor's been good to us, as you know.
National Harbor's been real good.
So, I got to get experience, and I really loved the NIAAA. I just thought it was fantastic, and I just want to really be part of this. And just, Daryl Nance always tells the story about, as you're young and, as a young AD, as you get into the NIAAA, you see the people that are either teaching the LTI classes or that are on the board, and you're just like, I want to be like that person. I like that, but I want to be like that person. So, those kind of thoughts started getting in my head. And then, of course, went to that first state conference in St. George, and started getting involved.
So the spring of 2014. So I think, would it have been the last year we were at the Holiday Inn? Well, it wouldn't have been the Lexington then, or we already moved to the
we
Abbey.
Already transitioned over because we were at the Abbey.
Okay, so it was probably the first year we were at the Abbey.
So it was good. It was a fun trip. It always is so weird. Being up here in Park City, we're always the last team, at least from a baseball and softball standpoint, to get on our fields. I always try to ask everybody at the stage, like, are you on yet? Are you on? Everybody's always on before we are. And so even the trip to St. George is always so interesting for me, because I'm always leaving snow when I go down there, and we get down there, it's always so hot and everything. So it's like a big climate shift for me, even though Salt Lake may be clear, we're still got snow on the ground up here, but I like it up here. So it's good. So
tell me about when you first got to Park City. I believe you were 3A. Now you're a 5A school. So during your journey there, tell our ADs out there what that's been like to transition to maybe a school around, and I'm guessing here, 900 to 1,000 people. So you're probably close to 1,600, 1,700 now. So that's a significant increase.
Yeah. Well, so we were a big 3A, because when I got here, we were 3A, and I think we were a big 3A. And then after that first cycle, those first 2 years, the regions changed, and then we switched over to 4. And we were 4 until about two cycles, well, 1 cycle ago, not including the next one that's coming. And it was good. It's nice to get. I mean, we're in a weird position. I always tell everybody this when they look at the map, because when you do the classification, when you look at where Park City is, you can really justify moving us north. You can justify moving us west. You can justify moving us east or south.
And they've done that.
We're like the swing school that can go any direction with that. So you never know where we're going to wind up. But yeah, we'd grown a little bit, and obviously they went to 6 classes. So that's kind of why that shift happened with the 4 as we went to 6 classes. And then, we had a lot of success in 4. I can't even remember. The first 6 years I was here, I think we'd won, I don't know, it was almost 40 state championships. It was something crazy. And I'd say I didn't have much to do with it. I just tried to put the right people in front of the kids every day and let them do their thing. So we've got great kids, we got great families. But so as we were having that success, as the last one came around, it's like, boy, we were really, it's kind of tough where we're at, struggling with identity. Are we a rural school, or are we a suburban school? What are we?
Yeah.
But when you look at kind of where we fit in, we have so many people that, go to Salt Lake to work, or people that come up from Salt Lake to work here, that we just felt we fit in better with those bigger schools. So we had some meetings and talked about some things, and decided, it came up that we were a bubble school for 4A, 5A. And we decided to go ahead and make that leap to 5, because we'd already had success and we were already playing a lot of 5A schools. We're like, well, let's see how we do. So we were trying to get into that East Bench Region 6 is where we feel that we fit best demographically. And it was going to put a 9th team in there, and the way it all got set up. And then Dave McKee at Spanish Fork said, well, you just want to come to Region 8? So that worked out, because Wasatch was in Region 8, and obviously that's, our closest in size and geography. So that worked out great. So we spent the last 2 years in Region 8, which has been really good. And then as this next one came through, we were bubble school again. So it was, kind of, we had talked about it. There were some people that wanted to drop down, but not very many. I think everybody else still wanted to stay where they were at, especially if we had the opportunity to get into Region 6. And it worked out. So it's going to be nice this next cycle to be going down there to the East Bench and be competing with those schools still.
Excellent. Share with our listeners now a little bit more about your journey with the UIAAA, because you have been a president, and now, of course, your journey with the NIAAA, and maybe a few stories about your time on the board and that election process.
Well, yeah, I'm going to forget stuff because there's been so much stuff that's going on. I mean, I can't, for those people that are getting involved in the UIAAA, is just, jumping in feet first. And I can't, I'm so grateful for you and for Rich and for Ron and for Ren and for Ted and for Clayton and all those people that were kind of in front of me, and Craig, that were part of bringing me in and my, I guess, development along with the UIAAA. But yeah, I started out as an ADEC rep and was getting involved. And I would joke about that story about that first conference when I was there and you were running around, and I was like, well, I don't know,
You said, well, he's crazy. He's just running around.
So I just asked you, I said, hey, anything I can help out? And you had that big old white cooler there, and you're like, yes, can you take this in the back, get it filled up and loaded up with Mountain Dew or whatever, Dr. Pepper, whatever it was. And so I just walked in the back, and I think John was still there at the time, and he was back, and I said, hey, where's the ice machine? He's like, oh, right over there. So I just walked over, filled it up, put all the stuff in, came back out. And, it was probably right before we were getting set up for the banquet or something. This was one of those high pressure times where the board's all running around. So that was my initial jump in with both feet and just volunteer and say, hey, what needs to be done? But we were in National Harbor. That would have been, I guess that would have been 14. Is that what you said when we were?
It was 14. It was when my turn as the committee chair over the operations 5 years before you and Rich were on this last time. And it was also the time when Rich ran the second time and won. So as you say, National Harbor's been good to us.
Yeah. So So we're in National Harbor, and Dave Boyack is president-elect, and Everett's there, and they say, "Hey, you want to go to dinner?" And if I knew he had ulterior motives at the time, I probably said no. But I said, "Yeah, no problem." So there was a steakhouse across the street. I don't know if it's still there. I can't remember the name. So we go over there. It's probably on Saturday night or something, or Sunday night, and have dinner. And we just talking about AD stuff and just getting to know Dave and Everett a little bit better, because I know Dave from ADEC. And Dave asked if I have any interest in running for president or president-elect. And I said, yeah, I'd love to get involved. I didn't exactly know what that meant at the time, but I wound up running then. Obviously that was December. So come next spring in April, I think it was in April that year, I ran for president-elect, and nobody else ran. So it made it kind of it was kind of an easy decision, I guess.
Acclamation.
Yeah, I got most of the votes. So that's how it kind of got into president-elect. And at the time, I'd taken, gosh, I don't know, I'd loaded up on LTCs. I loved them. So I think I loaded up on, I was probably over 30 at the time when I ran for president. I know I was up in the 30s because I think I'm at mid 40s right now. And just loved those, took those. I mean, I actually had Phil Risen as an instructor for a couple classes. So that's how I kind of got to know who Phil was and really kind of get to have a relationship with Phil. And Bruce Brown was one of the instructors I just loved and just really liked the way he carried himself, and the way he took care of his business and interacted with everybody. I just thought it was really neat. So that's kind of how I started, with you guys, with teaching and got involved in that and helping out, and just one thing just kept leading to another, and then helped out, as going through the 3 years of the presidency, just helped out with the LTI stuff, gotten certified, started working on the second level. I think right as I was finishing the presidency, I think I was going after the second level. But at that point, started helping Craig out and you out as an assistant, and Rich out as an assistant coordinator. We kind of talked about that, got that thing going.
And talk for a moment. Since you brought up the certification, you were the first CMAA that did the oral presentation nationally.
Yeah, that was, well, you remember how that all worked out is It came up as they presented it to us as a state coordinator conference in Indianapolis in that September as, hey, we're going to do this option. And I looked over at you and I said, I got my project ready. I can have this done in 2 weeks. And as soon as we got back, I started through the process, and I think I had it done in less than a month. I think it was October. I was done with it. And it was just such a great experience. I just really liked being able to tell that story versus having to write down that story. Because all of us as ADs, as we protect time, we can talk all day about, athletic stuff and everything. And it was just so much for me. It was just so much easier to do it that way, to tell that story, to go through everything that went on with the project. That, it was a great experience. And I'm privileged that a lot of people have come after in the state of Utah and done that and tried to help everybody out with it in terms of what they're doing. And even nationally, tried to help people out go through that process, because it's a great alternative. I'm glad the NIAAA came up with it, because
our CMAAs, since you got yours orally, I think they've almost doubled in the last, I want to say 5 years.
Yeah.
Before that, I know originally for so many years it was just Dan and I, and then we slowly got one here, one there. But I think this oral presentation's made it better. So now talk to our audience for a moment about your at-large journey, and because that's a huge story when they hear about how little old Utah won in Maryland.
Yeah. So obviously, being with you guys and the board, as that relationship grew, and going to the Section 7 meetings and getting to meet everybody in Section 7 and making those relationships with everybody. I think at the time we'd been to Vegas. At that point, we'd been to Vegas. We hadn't been to Hawaii yet. Pretty much every time, and just getting those relationships started. Craig retiring and moving into the LTI professional development coordinator position as the main role, and still staying involved, and obviously getting involved in the cohort. My horizons with the AD thing, with the UIAAA and the NIAAA, just kind of kept broadening. They were expanding very rapidly.
Mhm.
I was getting to know people all over the country and get those relationships, joining on with you as the vice chair for 790, teaching classes, taking classes. Those things just naturally, being on committees, being on the resolutions committee, doing the strategic plan for the state of Utah, as well as the NIAAA, just getting exposed to so many different people and getting to know them. It came up to where we were going to have, when they changed the rules for what board representation they were going to have, and we were going to be up, and they were switching who we were running against. So we'd be running against Section 2. So it would be seven against a representative from 2. And at the time, I mean, I think you or Rich at the Section 7 meeting had mentioned it. And we talked about it earlier, saying, hey, we want to put your name forward to run for the at-large. And obviously, Rich had done that, become president. And obviously that's a great role model to have in Rich Barton, that's for sure, to be in front of you. So I said, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to do it. The Section 7 all approved, and we started that process and go to National Harbor, of all places, where some of the things started for me. And Brad Chris from Maryland is the Section 2 representative that's running against us. And so it was, and I knew Brad, so it was a good relationship. But it was tough because, I mean, you're on home turf and you're in Section 2 and you're in that state. I mean, Brad's not very far away.
I'll share this with you before you finish the story. So I'm at the NEDC the summer before. So this is 4 or 5 months before. And I was in a discussion with a bunch of people from Section 2. I won't mention the states. And 2 of the state directors just looked at me, not being mean, just said, Wolf, that the guy that's running is Maryland. He said, whoever your guy is, and they didn't know who it was at the time. They said, we'll still be buddies, but you don't have a chance. And I'll let you finish that story.
I mean, rightfully so. I could see why you'd say that. I mean, you guys all mentioned how in the past it'd been so section oriented with voting, and these days it's gone a little bit more national, which is good. But I mean, I made a lot of relationships across the country with a lot of different people. I mean, that first summer, I went to the Section 1 Leadership Institute in Cape Cod and got to know a bunch of people like Steve Young and Pete Shambo, and create those relationships. Holly was there. I met Holly the first time there. So it was, I like that. I felt comfortable with that and running, and you get to a point you're just like, you know what, I'm just going to be me and do it. Whatever happens. If it works out this time, great. If it doesn't, hey, that's fine too. It's a good experience. So,
well, it was decision. And what I think caught so many other people off guard was you decided, I just came along as your campaign manager because I couldn't do it for Rich because of my board connection in the early days. We didn't do the bells and the whistles. And I mean, we didn't do the badges and the candy bars and the golf tees and the pens, although I still have Damien's pen. I love that.
Yes, Damien's, Damien.
And it was
every board meeting we have, we talk about the pen.
Yeah. And so, next time you see him, tell him I want another one because mine's run out. But it was such a change for the NIAAA. No one had ever really done that and said, look, I'm just going to, this is who I am. This is what we're going to do. And we were fortunate enough to win. So I think that's an incredible story.
Yeah, it was a weird year too, because, that was the year, I mean, Damien wound up being unopposed as he ran because that candidate had taken a new job
and they've since changed the rules so we can fix that in the future.
There wasn't really anything in the bylaws.
And it was the first year of the 8 sections rather than 7. So there was 2 elections going on, and it was a little bit different.
What you talked about, I wanted people to remember my words and me more so than anything that I might give them. I mean, plus I didn't want to haul a suitcase full of stuff from Salt Lake all the way to National Harbor. But no, I wanted to be authentic and me, and not that anybody else wasn't. The advice that I got from people was, whatever, at the end of the day, you just got to do you. You got to be you. And that was me. It was like, my words are going to be the most powerful thing I can do when I get up there with the speech and be able to share. And the way I viewed it was, I had 3 minutes, I think it was three,
It was.
to share whatever message I wanted to with the membership of the NIAAA at the conference. And so I looked at it that way versus a campaign speech. I looked at it like, if I had something to share from you right now from my experiences, here's what it would be. And here's what I want you to take away from this, because here's who I am. And that's kind of the way I approached it. Was that way, if the election didn't work out, I got to share a message that was a fantastic message with everybody versus vote for me. This is what I've done.
Well, it's so different. I go back to my failed year of 1999. That's going way back. There was 3 general sessions at the NIAAA conference then. And the second general session was Sunday at 8 a.m. And I'm not exaggerating when I said I got up and gave my speech, and you're lucky if there was 200 people there, because as you all know, everybody was out at their hospitality room Saturday night. They've since changed that. Now, a lot of things have changed. So that's incredible. So we're just about out of time. So let me ask you this. If you had 2 items you want to share with the brand new athletic director, brand new being anywhere between 1 to 4 years, what would those 2 items be?
Oh boy. I think the first one is avoid multitasking as much as possible, because this job, it gets real easy to have 4 or 5 balls in the air and spinning 3 plates. And, you know how it is. It gets to where and I do much better and I'm much more efficient if I'm ticking stuff off the list that I've made, instead of trying to do all 5 at once. It's like, okay, get this one done right now. And just work through it that way. I'm a lot faster, a lot more efficient that way than trying to do it all at the same time. If I do that, the analogy I was just using, balls start falling to the ground and plates start crashing. So I try to avoid that. The second thing is, look to add value to everything you're doing with the kids and with the coaches and with your school, whatever the situation is figure out how you can give value to that experience that the kids have. And somebody that I'm involved with now in a professional development standpoint, says, love your job, love people more, love the sport, love people more. And that's what it would be, is like, look for a way to make that experience for them as good as possible by constantly adding value into it, so that they'll remember that for the rest of their life. Whether they won a state championship or not is going to be immaterial. But the experience they have with extracurriculars and the person that helps make them, the friends that they have, the relationships they have with their mentors, with their coaches, look to always do that. Because I think the most important job we do as an athletic director is put the right person in front of the kids every day. So the coaches that you hire, putting the right person in front of them every single day is the most important.
That's well said. Let me finish with this question that I readily admit that I plagiarized from Dan, rather.
From Dan.
What question should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
That's a good one. I'm trying to think of a good one that would go along with the board or ADEC or something, but I can't come up with anything. The one thing I always said, I think I said this in my speech because I still had to do the speech for the UIAAA president, even though I was running unopposed, we still had to get up and talk. And I think I mentioned this, and it's one that I try to hold true to every day, is essentially, who is it that we work for, or who do I work for as an AD? And when I ask that of other ADs or of kids or coaches, they'll usually say, oh, you work for Park City. Like, I get paid by Park City School District, but I think I work for, and everybody else works for the kids. And that's who we actually work for. That's who we're accountable to every single day. And it goes back to that, creating that best experience possible for them that I mentioned earlier. We try to make the coaches' jobs easier, not do their job for them, but make it as easy as possible so they can have the best impact on the kids. But, at the end of the day, it's always like, look, we work for them, and the coaches too. Coaches, the players don't play for you. You coach for them. And if you go into every day with that attitude, you have some pretty good days. You get some pretty fun stuff done. Yeah.
That's well said. And I think I'll just echo that. It's about the kids. And so many of our guests have said that. As a matter of fact, all of them have said that. And that's a great message that our listeners can take away from this, and hopefully all of our broadcasts. We'll wrap this up today. Once again, our guest has been Jamie Sheetz, Certified Master Athletic Administrator, the Athletic Director at Park City High School, and the Professional Development Coordinator for the UIAAA, and the at-large Region B representative on the NIAAA board. Thanks, Jamie. It was good to have you.
Thanks, Hutch.